The 38 Letters from J.D. Rockefeller to his son. Perspectives, Ideology, and Wisdom. Written by J.D. Rockefeller. Narrated by Rick Font. Letter 20. Take risks to make use of opportunities. The higher the risk, the greater the return. November 2nd, 1936. Dear John, tomorrow, or perhaps before tomorrow, there will be a person who will live a rich life. It was reported in the newspaper that his name is David Morris, who has the same last name as Mr. Robert Morris. David Morris was the financial director during the American Revolution and the Prince of Commerce in Philadelphia, and recently had a streak of good luck at the casino and won a lot of money. He also said that he was a master at the casino. At the same time, he posted a life motto of a gambler. Only by curiosity can you discover opportunities, and by taking risks can you make use of them. You know, I always disagree with people who are addicted to gambling, but I cannot help but admire this gentleman. I even believe that with his philosophical wisdom and mine, he might become a very successful businessman, an excellent gambler if he joins the business world. I make such an appreciative assumption, not to say that good gamblers will become good businessmen. In fact, I hate those who treat the industry as casinos, but I do not disagree with the adventurous spirit because I know a rule. The higher the risk, the greater the return. For everyone, sailing in the business sea is the greatest adventure that life can provide him. The trajectory of my life is a rich adventure. If I were to find out which adventure was most decisive and the most relevant to my future, it would be entering the oil industry. Before investing in the oil industry, our own bank, Agricultural Product Agency Sales, was doing a good job, and I was fully expected to become a big middleman if we were to continue. But all this were changed by Mr. Andrews, an expert in lighting. He told me, John, when kerosene burns, the light is brighter than any lighting oil. It will definitely replace other lighting oils. Think about it. Well, John, how big of a market will that be? If we can step foot into it, what will it be like? The more things I have, the greater the power. The opportunity is here. Letting it go is not just about money, but it also weakens your power in the arena of getting rich. I told Andrews, I do. We invested $4,000, which was a lot of money for us, and started an oil refining business. When the money is invested, I did not think about failure. Although at that time, while oil made many millionaires, it also turned more people into paupers. I plunged into the oil refining industry and worked hard. In less than a year, oil refining earned us more profits than agricultural products and became the company's largest business. At that moment, I realized that it was courage and adventurous spirit that opened up a new way of making money. At that time, no industry was able to get rich overnight like the oil industry. Such a prospect stimulated my desire to make big money, and it also allowed me to see the long-awaited opportunity to make big plans. I warned myself, you must hold on to it. It can bring you your dreams. But then I aggressively expanded the business strategy of the oil industry and irritated my partner, Mr. Clark. Clark is an ignorant, conceited, weak, and lacking courageous person. He is afraid of failure and advocates a prudent business strategy, which is completely contrary to my business ideology. In my eyes, money is like dung. If you scatter it around, you can do a lot of things, but if you hide it, it will just be an unbearable, foul-smelling asset. Clark is not a good businessman. He does not know the true value of money. When we are indifferent to important things, our lives will come to an end. Clark has become a stumbling block on my road to success, and I must kick him away and break up with him. This is an important moment. To win, you must understand the value of risk, and you must have your own vision of creating luck. For me, breaking up with Mr. Clark is undoubtedly a risky adventure. Before I decide to throw everything into the oil industry, I must be sure that oil will not disappear. At that time, many people believed that oil was a blooming epiphany, which was difficult to last. I certainly hope that the oil source will not be exhausted, as once there is no oil source, those investments will be worthless, and my fate may be worse than that of gamblers in the casino. But the information I received made me optimistic that the oil source will not disappear. Hence, it is time to break up. Before the announcement to Mr. Clark, I first pulled Mr. Andrews over in private. I said to him, "We're going to be lucky. There's a sum of money waiting for us, and that is a large sum of money. I want to terminate my relationship with the Clark brothers. If I buy their shares, will you be in it with me?" Andrews did not let me down. A few days later, I got even more support from the banks. In February that year, after a series of preparations, I proposed to break off with Mr. Clark. Although he was reluctant, I have decided. Finally, we all agreed to auction the company to the buyer with the highest price. To this day, when I think of the auction scene, I feel very excited. It feels like gambling in a casino, which is thrilling and made me completely focused on it. It was a good bet. What I bet with is money, but what I gamble with is my life. The company started the auction from $500, but it quickly climbed to several $1,000s, and then slowly climbed to $50,000. This price has exceeded my estimate of the value of the refinery, but the bidding price continued to rise, as it started to exceed $60,000 and then soared to $70,000. At this time, I began to fear. I was worried about whether the company created by me could still be bought back and whether it was valued that high. But I calmed down quickly, and I warned myself at a lightning speed. Don't be afraid. Since you have made up your mind, you have to go forward. The competitor offered $72,000, and I did not hesitate to offer $72,500. At this time, Mr. Clark stood up and shouted, "I won't add it any more. John, it belongs to you." Dear John, that was the moment that decided my life, and I felt its extraordinary significance. Of course, I paid a high price for buying out Mr. Clark. I gave Clark half of the agency's shares and $72,500. But what I won was freedom and a glorious future. I became my own master, my own employer, and I no longer had to worry about those short-sighted, mediocre people blocking my way. When I was 21 years old, I owned the largest refinery in Cleveland and became one of the largest refiners in the world. Today, thinking about it, this guy who consumes 500 barrels of crude oil a day was undoubtedly the weapon that brought me to the path of hegemony and allowed me to conquer the oil kingdom. Thanks to that auction, it was the beginning of my success in life. It is almost certain that safety first cannot make us rich. If we want to get paid, we must always accept the necessary risks that follow. Isn't life like this? There is no such thing as maintaining the status quo. If you do not advance, you will retreat. It is that simple. In my aspect, being cautious is not the perfect way to succeed. No matter what we do, or even our lives, we must choose between taking risks and being cautious. And sometimes, the chance of winning by taking risks is much greater than by being cautious. Merchants are chasers of profits and wealth. They rely on creating resources and obtaining resources from others, and even forcing others to give up resources to make themselves rich. Therefore, taking risk is an indispensable means for merchants to conquer the market. If you want to know the tricks that are risky but does not incur failure, you only need to remember one sentence. Plan boldly and implement carefully. Love, your father.